Hi and welcome. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and I'm back for another weekly update. This is weekly update number 6, and we're going to talk about everything I've worked on during the week. But before we do that, let's take a look at the quilt behind me. This was a previous quilt that I finished. Now, it's only March. It's March 4th, 2023 today, which is still winter, but we've had a lot of spring-like weather, so I'm about ready to put all my winter quilts out and start bringing out the spring ones. So I thought we'd take a look at this one real quick before I put it up. All right, this quilt was a pattern through Crab Apple Hill that was called Over the River and Through the Woods. Again, all of this through here is hand embroidered. All of that, and then the blocks around it are pieced. And I quilted it with a snowflake pattern. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, so here's a closer look at all that embroidery. We come down here. Let's start over here. And those quilted snowflakes are in there. Alright, let's take a look at the back. And it was just like a grunge that was used on the back. And there's that label. Now this quilt over here, I know you guys have seen in my previous videos, and in case you're wondering about it, this is just a quilt that I have hung up because this was the first quilt that I put on the long arm all by myself, quilted it, bound it, and finished it. So I leave it hanging here just as a reminder, this is where it started. So I finished a few more tops this week. The first one I finished was the granita pattern. All right, let's take a look at it. All right. That was the first one I finished. Now the next one I completed was the Twinkle Toes Table Runner pattern from Fat Quarter Shop that used the foundation pads. And I finished that one. Alright, so that was the second top I finished. And that's the binding for that, ready to go. And then the next one I finished this week was the Holiday Homestead pattern. Now, I did not use these fabrics. I had my own panel with different fabrics. But I finished that one as well this week. This is the binding. And this the quilt. And I already have the backing for that one. Alright, this is the Granita quilt. It's a little bit easier to see with it hanging up. Alright. And then there's a better look at the Holiday Homestead quilt hanging up. Alright, let's talk about the quilt I actually quilted this week. So this is the Bargello quilt that I quilted this week. We'll take a look at the quilting. Alright, so there's the quilting. And this was number 59 in my 200 plus quilt top trunk show. And this is done with all metallic fabrics. Alright, let's take a look at the back. And that's what the back looks like. Binding, label, and done. Alright, now take a look at the progress I made in piecing this week. Actually, I've got quite a lot done this week, despite the fact I had just a very busy week in life. But I got a lot done on my sewing. So the first thing is, last week I had showed you I'd made progress in sewing. Well, I got all those 9 patches pinned together for that table topper. That I'd already shown you. And I've got those triangle pieces pinned together. So that's one thing I made some progress on. It wasn't actual sewing, but still, it was still pinning, so it was progress. I pin. I love to pin. All right. The next thing I made progress on, I did some more pinning on this. And I got the center of this gnome quilt. Got all these rows pinned together. Just have to sew them. I've got that all together. And I've got the borders sewn together, so I just have to add the borders. Now that quilt was part of a Creation Notion subscription box. And with that, we also got these cute little kits to make these little gnomes that I had made a while ago from socks. And I named my gnomes Rex and Roxy. They kind of hang out with this other gnome that I crocheted. All right. Now, what else did we work on? Put all of that back. Oh, yep. And since I finished that Sew Sampler table runner, I'm on to another Sew Sampler project. And it's this one. Star Flower quilt pattern. Which will be that. So I cut all of that out and got all the pieces pinned together to get started on that. I also worked on this starry checkers. They've got all these 9 patches. Just got that last thing pinned there together, so sew those, and then all those 9 patches will be done. And I can start adding all, I'll have square triangles to get that laid out. Worked on that. Then we've worked on this Cory Yoder quilt, the Woodland Frolic. I got my hedgehog all done. And I've got the quilt pinned together. There's the squirrel. There's the fox. Got the owl. And that hedgehog. So, I have that bottom part pinned together. And the sashing, so I need to sew that, and then there's a border that goes all the way around it, and that one will be done. Then I worked on this other Sew Sampler project, Fast and Furious quilt pattern. There it is on the back, because I'm not making the table runner. I'm going to make the actual quilt. I got those strip sets all sewn together. And now I'm just going to work on snowballing those corners. Which, again, I've got those pinned down. I also cut out this Lazy Day quilt pattern that I got from my trip to Polar Fabrics. So I cut out all that fabric. And I've got some things pinned together. Not much progress, but I just got a bunch of things pinned together. Start making that. So I did do a lot of cutting. And I cut out this pattern, which is another Sew Sampler Leaves quilt pattern. And again, I cut out all that fabric and started with those. Got all those pinned together to sew. Can you you tell I like the pens? All right, then I work some more on this Snowy Friends quilt pattern. Again, not using those fabrics, using my own. I've got this pinned together. And these will be at the top and bottom borders. So I got the middle of that all sewn together with this border. Now I'm working on this border. I've got it pinned for the top and bottom. Got that on the top and the bottom. And then after that's sewed on, this will be folded over and add a little flange border before we add another border around it. So I got 2 more quilly things that I worked on this week. This is a paper pieced pattern. And this is quite large. Let me get the picture out. I'm working on this, and this is all paper pieced. This is going to take me a while. I don't know if you can see how thick all those paper is. Plus, I just dropped some on the floor over there. I'll pick it up. But I'm doing it in all batiks. And we just started on doing these. There's 8 different ones of these. And we'll go from here. That's as far as I've got. But I cut all that out and started working on it. Now, I have never foundation paper pieced anything like this. This is a queen size. I've done beginner projects and I've done like some of the foundation paper pads, but I've never done anything like this. So when I pulled this out, the instructions were a little confusing. It took me a while to figure them out. And my last quilty project I worked on this week was this Snowy Friends pattern. And of course, I'm not using those fabrics. This is my binding. Again, I've got that all pinned together. I just have to sew the binding and sew that last top and bottom border. And then that will be done. And then I actually have backing for that one as well too. Okay, I think that's everything I worked on as far as sewing and quilting. Let's talk about the other things I've done this week. Oops, before we move on to the other things I worked on this week, and I got some of them finished too, let's talk about what I did today. I went shopping. Again, my husband and I took a little day trip. And not only did I go shopping, he stopped at Micro Center and bought stuff for him, which, you know, I know nothing about. But that's okay. I went where I wanted. He went where he wanted. Had a nice dinner. Great day. All right. While we were at Tree City Stitches, my husband found this pattern, which is a llama. I think it's cute. And then we have this. Now, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, add another row, and make it a little bit bigger. And we are going to make this in flannels. Well, I'm going to make it. My husband picked out fabric. But we're going to make this. The llamas are going to be more neutral colors. And then we have like different plaids and things that he's going to use for the scarves and hairs. We'll see what happens. That's the first thing we bought. Now, we went to Tree City Stitches because I had went on a shop hop a few weeks ago, and we had a coupon for 20% off this month, so we had to go back and spend it, right? And then we bought, I say we, but really I bought here's the pattern. But here's the fabrics that go along with it. This little owl, raccoon. This little plaids. This. This, and that. So that's the first kit I bought. Now everything I bought at Tree City Stitches was more like juvenile, for, you know, some kids' quilts and things. Which is great to make and then have on hand because, you know, you never know when you need them. Alright, and then I bought this kit, which has these woodland creatures in it. I don't want to undo the entire bundle here. We've got some bunnies and some trees that are kind of upside down. So got some squirrels there. Little fox. And the brown. That's the second kit I bought. Now this, I like this little panda fabric here. Isn't it cute? Sorry, my lights are doing funny things here. Here we go. And then we got the panda fabric in blue. Some dots. Smaller pandas. More blenders. A pink dot. Blender there. And that's the pattern that came with it. We'll see. And just because those pattern came with it doesn't mean I have to use them. I can do whatever I want. And then I got this dinosaur. That little dinosaur quilt. Came with a charm pack. Those 3 fabrics back there. Then I got one more. It's just gonna be that. These are more like whales and oceany octopus fish. It's like some grunge like fabric there. A blender with green. Looks like some little fishies out there swimming in the water. And then that color. So that's what I bought there. Alright, now let's move on to what I finished crocheting this week. Alright, I finished crocheting my love shawl from Lether Co. There it is. And it's pretty big. Alright. That's what I made. That's what I finished. So since I finished that, we are on to the next crochet project. And that is a sweater. Well, it's a cardigan. And it is the Enchanted cardigan. Again, it's a Lether Co pattern. And I am using this. I'm using an eye hook. And I'm using this Yarntopia yarn in Heather, which is kind of like a light lavender gray color. And this is an acrylic yarn. This is 100% acrylic yarn. And that's all the farther I've got on it. So I finished my shawl and now I'm on to the cardigan. We'll see how much progress I make on it by next week. Alright, cross stitch. Let's talk about cross stitch. I'm getting close, guys. I'm getting close. So, here we go. I finished this one. Now, I'm just on to here. So I just have to finish that and I'm done. Just finish this bitter brew. Maybe I can get it done this week and then move on to something else. Now again, this is 14 count Aida on a fabric flare gray small cobweb, on which I'm using DNC and DNC Etoile. And still got it in my project bag. And my floss rings there. Alright, one last thing I've worked on. Let me show you. So, I finished my diamond painting. Here it is. So that's all done. So, these are stretcher bars. So, I will be putting those together in a frame, wrapping that around, and I can hang it up with all my other vintage truck diamond paintings. Alright, so that's all my quilty stitchy things and crafty things that I've worked on this week. I will be having another part 7 of my 200 plus quilt show, trunk show coming up midweek, and then I'll be back next week for another weekly update. Now, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do some sew-alongs, but I'm working on it. Keep watching. We'll figure that out. Because I'd really like to show you guys how I sew. Because I know a lot of people comment I get a lot of stuff done, so maybe you'd be interested in seeing exactly how I do what I do. Alright, till next time, bye!